And first off, I'd like to briefly thank you all for coming. Now, when trying to decide what I wanted to pursue for my senior project, I figured that it should not just be for educational purposes. I wanted to do something that would have a lasting impact on me and aid me in my future. But it also had to be interesting. We'll go deeper into that later. Right now, I bring to you my senior project, Making It On My Own, Self-Sustainability and Homesteading. Just to ensure that everyone is on the same page, I'm going to define these two terms for you, beginning with the dictionary definition, followed by what they mean to me. According to Merriam-Webster, self-sustaining is defined as maintaining or able to maintain oneself or itself by independent effort, or maintaining or able to maintain itself once commenced. Self-sustainability, in my opinion, is more of a feeling than a lifestyle, but it is a feeling that is attainable and must be achieved through learning and a change in mindset. Merriam-Webster gives definitions for homesteading as both a noun and a verb. As a noun, it is defined as a house and the land it is on, a piece of government land a person could acquire by living on it and farming it in the western part of the U.S. was being settled. As a transitive verb, to homestead means to acquire or occupy a homestead. As an intransitive verb, to homestead is to acquire or settle on land under a homestead law. And just so you know, a homestead law is defined as a law exempting a homestead from attachment or sale under execution or general debts, or any of several legislative acts authorizing the sale of public lands in homestead. Homesteading to me is what I consider to be the lifestyle or category of activities, having to do with the way daily life is carried out, as well as how objects are thought of, created, used, and disposed of. So while many people consider these terms related and somewhat similar, these two items are quite different in meaning to me. Most people, at some point in their lives, must become self-reliant. They leave home and create one on their own, whether that be through marriage, getting a house, or simply leaving the nest, thus becoming their own home. Over the past few years, my life has been rather rocky. It has always been important to me to strive for stability. Didn't need to do that yet. And be able to help myself in times of need. This has been of particular importance to me as of late. I have moved a lot in the past year, 5 times to be exact. But I finally landed at my aunt's home, which just so happens to be a farm animal sanctuary called Driftwoods. Now I can do that. The capacity to carry the load, despite being bone tired, being undaunted by the vagaries of weather, and getting satisfied in all the conditions. These 3 qualities are to be learned from the donkey. At Driftless, the symbol on the business cards is a donkey. We also have one at home. I wanted to include this quote because I believe it embodies the values behind this project quite nicely. This being because the speaker mentions 3 profound lessons that can come from an animal so seemingly simple as a donkey. Also, donkeys are fiercely independent, thus having a reputation for being stubborn. Now, you may be wondering how this pertains to a school project. The answer to this is almost entirely. This project has taught me volumes about myself, my home, and what exactly that means. Now, aside from being all emotional, I did actually learn stuff and make things. I participated in many activities, which I will mention in greater detail later on. But first, I would like to share with you some of the research that I did about the traditional ways people did self-sustainable activities in the various cultures that make up my heritage. These being Cherokee and Scottish. There are a few more groups in my ancestry, but I thought that these 2 would be the most interesting to research and compare. I researched the same 5 topics for each culture: soap and hygiene, wood carving, clothing, candles, and livestock. Let's begin with the Cherokees, who are a tribe of Native American people. Before the Trail of Tears, which took place during the 1800s, they lived all across the southeastern United States, in what is now known as Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. However, using the Trail of Tears, the settlers forced nearly all of the Cherokee Nation into Oklahoma. It was widely believed amongst white settlers that the Cherokees had little to no regard for hygiene or sanitation. However, this is not true. The Cherokee, like all other groups of people, had specific hygiene rituals and ways of sanitation. They bathed frequently in the streams and rivers surrounding them, sometimes putting different leaves in the water for their medicinal qualities. They were also frequent users of what they called sweat baths, or as we say now, saunas. They built small buildings in which they would light fires and place heated boulders or stones. After thoroughly detoxifying, they would bathe in cool water to refresh themselves. The Cherokees used various herbs and oils to clean, heal, and restore their bodies and minds. As with most other cultures, the Cherokee people began carving wood out of necessity. They made various tools to aid them in daily life. One of the most notable was a tool used for grinding corn. This is called a xena. Another of the Cherokees' best carved items were their pipes. These they filled with various medicinal herbs for use in rituals, healing, and leisure. They also made many beautiful masks to use in dances and rituals. These they decorated with fur and other accessories. Of course, they made toys for their children, as well as utensils and other utilitarian items. The people of the Cherokee tribe were primarily leather, with the men wearing leggings and the women wearing skirts. In colder weather, they wore warmer shirts, jackets, hats, all the usual things really. Two types of clothing in particular were, and still are in some places, very popular amongst Cherokee. These being the tear dress, pronounced either tear as in cry or tear as in to rip, and the ribbon shirt. The ribbon shirt is most commonly worn by men. However, as with all clothing, one can wear whatever they want. This style of shirt is fairly simple in design, but deceptively decorative. Most often they are worn during powwows, but are also worn during other times. The name is fairly self-explanatory. A ribbon shirt is made from a simple, light shirt, adorned with ribbons across the chest and allowed to drape down in the front and back. The tear dress originates from the time during which the Trail of Tears was active. Most people of the tribe were not allowed to own scissors due to seizures made by the United States government. So they cleverly tore off sections of other fabrics and affixed them to a dress pattern to make beautiful dresses. These are not just good to look at, but practical as well. Most commonly they ended just above the knees and just under the knees to make half and had 3/4 width. This was so that they did not obstruct movement or gather dew, seeds, or other debris from their environment. Finally, I would like to mention the tradition of finger weaving. With this technique, the Cherokees are able to create beautiful belts, sashes, and other clothing items. They pioneered many patterns from specific lightning stripes, arrowhead shapes, and plaid designs. The Cherokee people did not have much in the way of candles. However, they at times used cloth dipped in some sort of wax, whatever was available. However, in my research, I did come across this little modern-day Cherokee candle shop where they used a lot of the plants that the Cherokee people had access to. As with many Native Americans, Cherokees did not keep livestock until a while after the Europeans came around. They were excellent farmers, however, and had a brilliant, sustainable system. This they called the Three Sisters. They were each corn, squash, and beans. These three crops grew together in massive fields that were strategically tended in a rotating style. The purpose of combining these three, is that the corn provides structure for the beans and the squash covers the ground, protecting all the roots and keeping out weeds. Closer to home, they had smaller gardens in which they kept pumpkins, sunflowers, and a few other plants. Moving on to Scotland. No offense to any fellow Scots out there, but I must be frank. We had some rather interesting ideas, sorry Frank, about hygiene and medicine. I'll stay away from the more medical topics as it does not directly pertain to my project. In the Regimen Sanitatis, the Rule of Health, which is an old Gaelic medical transcript from around the 16th century in Italy, I read about what was supposed to be the ideal morning routine. You were supposed to rise early, and before getting out of bed, stretch your arms followed by your chest. Then put on clean clothes, expel your digestion, and blow your nose. After this, you are supposed to rub the dust and sweat off from the day before with your hands. If it is summertime, you're supposed to use cold water to wash your face. If it is winter, you use hot. This is where it gets rather hot. You're supposed to hold a mouthful of water until it gets warm, and then dip your middle finger in it, and use this to wash out your eyes. Finally, to clean your teeth, you rub them with melon leaves in the summer and the yellowed skin of an apple in the winter. Now, we did get some things right. The Scots had great knowledge of the medicinal plants that surrounded them and used them proactively, not just as needed. I'll give you a few examples of the plants that were commonly used. As diuretics, wild garlic, juniper, goldenrod, sage, and foxglove were utilized. For the ears, leeks were consumed in various methods. For the eyes, they used something called xena and sul. For the overall health, garden sage, parsley, and nettles were common. So, a lot of old Scottish wood carving is based on religion. Various religious symbols were carved and can still be found in plenty shops and homes today. I actually have a Celtic map, which is in leather, carved by my cousin Sam over there. And if you want to, you can come up to me later and take a closer look at it. A very early language system called Adam can be found carved into stones and wood. This writing method is based on the Gaelic alphabet and was commonly used to communicate, stake claim on land, and at variance. Of course, the Scots carved utensils and other household items, but the religious and decorative work is where they truly shine. I'm pretty sure everyone here has heard of kilts. These are by far the most famous article of the Scottish clothing out there. In case you don't know, and if you don't, you may want to expose yourself to a little bit more culture. A kilt is a woolen, plaid, pleated skirt worn by Scottish men. Not just any plaid, though. Each pattern is representative of a specific clan. Each one has their own colors, variation, and it's called a tartan. Now, these tartans were not only worn in the form of kilts. There were many other ways, too. Two more famous ones are called the trubash or